get inside my range there. So I guess I can talk right ahead about one little mod I did to the system there. The XNA game framework normally only allows you to use both a keyboard and a mouse, or a keyboard, a mouse, or actually a gamepad. You can actually plug right in and actually use this game. I rewrote the XNA framework.game class to add a new game state for my module. What I do is I read off a virtual COM port and then I get the data from there, and I'm actually able to play the game using that. So when we demo on Monday, I'll definitely have that up for us. So basically what we're looking at here, you see your ETs coming across the side. Oh, my frame rate's not great. You see as I'm shooting or trying to survive on these guys right now, what happens is you have to kill everything but 2 guys. You're allowed to leave the ETs alone because they're generally nice people. But each thing comes from the top, and you can see them, they go out in general formation. I try and keep them together. If I absorb the shells, you see the green shells, I can just walk right into them, and then I gain player hits. My player hits in the bottom right of the screen, my character, and then my super bombs are on the left side. So if I wanted to use a super bomb, I would just hit the shift key, blow up everything that's on the immediate screen. So now you can see I'm only down to 1 hit point, so I'm already not doing too well. Enemies scroll right to left, and then once they reach the side of the screen, they'll move back around again. It all goes off eye roll offset. It's kind of used as something called a parallax background. And I also got little general power-ups that will increase my speed, my rapid-fire ability. I'm going to try and get you to wave 5 just so I can show the mini-boss. See if I can survive that with the frame rate movements. As you can see, that was an Atari cartridge. Just exploded there. All the Seekers then shoot out, and they're all able to shoot. They're red shells, so if I'm able to turn red, as you can see, I'm changing my game state by using the control, and then I can absorb the red shells if I land directly on them, or attempting to. So right now I've got a pretty good amount of hit points from the ones I just walked into there. And then got destroyed immediately. You see the Supermans just kind of sit as the bomber up there. They just generally throw little bombs that'll explode outward if they hit off anything or off you. Alright, so here's the one. I just want to show off the boss. Just 10 hit points, and if I can get him to fire right, his gems. He uses a gem projectile. It's a large weapon. You can see him sitting there at the side. And I just have to hit him multiple times. There you go, that's what I was saying, I'm never making it to level 8 or 9. So yeah, it saves, each enemy you kill gets you a certain amount of points. It's saved on the high score screen there. You can kind of see the little box I just put there. It'll also tell you at the end of every wave how many points you've gained. You get points for enemies, points for waves, points for times that you beat the game in. So it's kind of your general idea of a regular arcade game. It was mostly trying to be made for Xbox Live Arcade. It's directly deployable through the XNA Game Studio. So found it to be pretty effective. It's relatively easy to implement, just using 2D textures. The content pipeline is really excellent in XNA if you're interested in trying to get involved there. I'd suggest going through 1 or 2 tutorials in the game series that you were looking at if you're interested in that type of system. But it's really quite effective. Instantly networkable, download right to an Xbox 360. And again, I can plug in 4 Xbox 360 controllers and bring on 4 players. But I only own 1, so I couldn't do that. So that's the game we have for you. And again, on Monday, I'll definitely be displaying that with the controller there, which again did work pretty well. I'm sorry I couldn't bring it for today. Any questions?
You mentioned for a couple solo levels have protagonists. Is there any multiplayer in there yet?
Yep, we had one with Luigi actually with this one. We have both of them. A little hard to see there too. They actually, I was working a bit more with the animated sprite class, which is a kind of interesting class where you can actually take a whole sprite sheet and just tell it one frame to the next. So I was trying to do that with utilizing the color change between the two and trying to put them together. And then I just went and tried to make 2 separate players. But we did want to try and have 2 protagonists per level, talking about like for the internet meme one looking at like a King Leonidas as well as Chuck Norris type thing, or having a nice little interesting pairings across the board. So that was definitely something we were looking at and definitely directly implementable for keyboard, gamepad, or otherwise.
How tough was the hardware to develop?
Hardware, I've been up for 3 days. I just demoed that today. That was probably, since spring break, definitely about 5-6 hours looking at per day. Had a lot of issues with the boards, trying to really utilize everything. I use, we started off with using I tried to do it with regular cameras. I wanted to emphasize the fact that it was not digital cameras. We just used 2 crappy $20 security cameras, CCTV. And what we did was put those to a video decoder chips, which turned it to a digital 8-bit signal. Each pixel has 2 bytes. 1 byte is your contrast, your light, and the other one's your color. We kill the color, so we only have to deal with light. That's why you'll notice the inside of my box is blacked out. One of the nice features of a security camera is that they're infrared, so the hand appears very white. So what I do then is the signal's coming out very quickly. It's about 18 megabytes per second worth of bytes that I have to sift through. You wouldn't think that's too much for a regular computer, but the fact is I have to look at each individual byte and tell what the contrast level is, and I have to know what threshold I'm looking for in order to consider that a light byte. So I use an FPGA, which can process about 50 megabytes per second of data. It's roughly 14, 17 nanoseconds per byte. And then by doing that rapidly over time, I'm able to build up, and what I do is I tell it, don't send out the X and Y value of the hot pixel, or what I consider to be a hot pixel, unless I get 5 of them in a row, so I'm sure that the crappy camera doesn't screw up my measurements. Then once I get 5, I immediately throw the X and Y value from the counters that I have counting each line, throw that to a DSP microprocessor, which can sample at about 30-40 megahertz per second. It's roughly about 50 nanoseconds. Utilizing that, I can then process the data, do a couple of floating point algorithms on it, and then also handle my backend. What I do is I've actually used the DSP to connect through a serial port to the computer. That serial port throws in all the data, and then I designed a virtual COM port that reads that serial data as quickly as possible, as quickly as it's there, because the computer is definitely not the bottleneck. The bottleneck certainly is the DSP. And once it processes the X and Y values that it sees, I just directly put it to a game screen. NTSC format's 720 by 480, so I just take that and I literally just multiply the values that come out based upon where I counted them out. And then I just read them constantly. I hacked the XNA framework so I could use a Windows form. So I have my game read off the Windows form, which was that little form you saw in the background. It constantly churns out data, and the game just reads it over time, and then you can see it move around the screen. And then mouse clicking and everything is controlled by depth. And that's the full ensemble. Yeah, it's definitely a fun capstone project.
Any others? Okay, let's thank that.